Hello, everybody. We have another edition of Ask Ron this week, and I have got Ron right here next to me,
Yeah.
ready to answer your questions. All right, you guessed it. The first question we have this week is from Tony and Angie Stewart. They attended the
Big
Quick
shot.
Start.
Yeah.
They said thank you so much. They learned a lot. Their question for this week is, although not as good as being there, I did pick up um, some new distinctions and also appreciated the new stuff. Our question is, when negotiating creative deals, what are your absolute red flags that tell you to immediately walk away, no matter how motivated the seller seems?
Um, Must be a question from Angie because I don't think Tony's smart enough to come up with that question. All right, I'm done, Tony. Forget about it. The answer is several, actually. In fact, I've killed a lot of deals in the last 2 months for these reasons. Number one, it's financed to the max and it has no equity or very little equity. Number two, the payments are so high and no rent is ever going to cover them. Number three, if the price the seller's asking combined to any work that needs to get done is at ARB or about it, I don't want to work for free, so I got to have some little equity left. In fact, I've had 2 or 3 of those in the past couple of months, where if you take the loan amount, which was the purchase price, and add the repairs to it, you'd be overfinanced. And there's so many houses out there, I don't recommend anybody get overfinanced on purpose. We're supposed to be making money with this business. And of course, now in the ugly house business, the thing that keeps me away most is they're asking too much for the property, and I'm not going to compete with the greater fools out there who are going to a seminar and paying too much for the property. I've already been to that seminar. I teach that seminar. I ain't going back. So if I don't get it at a price I want it at, I don't want it at all. And that means we pass up hundreds of deals per month that there's just no money in it or not enough to make it worthwhile. Mostly listed by realtors. Mostly. All right. Enough.
Few more questions. Next up from Jerry Ladd from Texas. If you lease option a house from a seller for several years and you are paying their mortgage company and then the seller moves without notifying you, is it difficult to find them when your tenant buyer wants to cash out?
Think you mean you lose contact with the seller while you got a tenant buyer in the house? Well, one thing, you might have a bigger problem than that, Jerry. And that is, in Texas, they got their own rules on lease options. The option can't be more than 6 months. And you better send them a expiration of option letter prior to that 6 months. Because if they want to challenge you, they will probably win and get everything back they've given you up to that date. So you need to learn the law out there, and you need to close with a real attorney that understands this stuff, or you're get more trouble than anything. Now, again, the option expires at 6 months, but you can continue the lease as long as they want, and you can still give them the credit for whatever they put down. But they're you're not going to go in any agreement that tells them that. This is just an understanding between the two. And if you don't get good at that, incidentally, just leasing it out for 6 months, and I don't know whether that's worth the trouble of risk the trouble of somebody thinking you did something wrong and coming after you or not. Most of my students buy owner finance in Texas because you can get the house back in a month or two, unlike most states. However, my favorite is not owner financing. My favorite is lease options. But in Florida, we don't have that stupid law that their option has to expire in 6 months. I don't know whoever created that, man. I don't know where you guys in Texas get these rules at, but there's a special rule. It's the only state I know that has that kind of limitation on lease purchases. Doesn't mean you can't do them. It just means that you better have a good lawyer helping you close them.
Nice. Thanks, Ron. Next up, we have Ginny and Fred from Oklahoma. When you are visiting the home, I assume it is acceptable to take a photo of the seller paperwork if a copy is not available and the seller is okay with it. And should be asking for the paper, I'm sorry, and should asking for the paperwork happen before or after I have gotten the seller contract signatures?
I'd do it after or during. For example, if I want to know the loan balance, they probably got a letter from their lender not many months ago saying what it was. And that's good enough for me. Because I always put not fixed because it changes every day. So I put approximately. That's what I'm trying to think of. Yeah. All right. And then purchase price is going to change every day because the loan balance goes up and down every day. And what was the question? I forgot now, but that was heading in the right direction.
I mean, you initially answered a question, so yep, that was just asking if the paperwork should be signed. The paperwork should happen before or after the seller contract signs.
Uh, I would get the contract signed, anything. I mean, what was the issue anyway? I wouldn't keep something from them and then disclose it after the contract is signed. So what was the question?
Now I'll reread it. When you are visiting the home, I assume it is acceptable to
Yeah.
take a photo of the seller paperwork.
If they don't have a copy, yes.
Right. And then
And
should asking for the paperwork happen before or after?
I usually sit down and write the contract while they're bringing the paperwork to the table. Sometimes they already have it there, sometimes they don't. And then I look through the documents. It's frankly, I've done it both ways. It doesn't matter whether you do it before or after you get a contract out ready to go. And there's only a handful of documents you're going to want in a pile, which I just went over last week in my boot camp. And I don't think you can get them on the Gold Club, can you? I'm going to go from memory here. Okay, so forgive me. I'm old. Number one, you need the let's see, are they lease options from the seller? Is that what he said? Or they buying it?
I think the seller, they're selling.
Seller's lease option form?
Mhm.
Okay. You'll need obviously the original lease option document. You'll need a authorization to release form for your lawyer to send to the bank to get all the information on the house. And that's all you're going to need while you're there. Anything else, your attorneys are going to prepare for you after your next day to maybe, and get that information to them, which is in your boot camp manual if you've been to Quick Start School. He gets that to them and gets them on the phone and goes over the documents with them so they can know that they've done the right thing and they got a professional closing it. So, unless, of course, the tenant buyer, see, if the seller is handy, there's really nothing else for the seller to do, come to think about it, until you get a tenant buyer in there and cash you out. But if your buyer is handy, it would be best if they went to the attorney's office and done it while my attorney's across the table from them, because they're not going to doubt that one. They'll know that was a professional closing done by a professional. But unfortunately, in our world we're in right now, it's more likely everybody's going to sign these things by telepathy anyway. And in that case, I let the attorney tell them the things that they need to know and verify they're okay with me making the first payment in the third month after closing. Verify anything else that's in the agreement that we agreed upon, and it's already on a contract, which I don't have in front of me right now. But anyway, it's so simple. You come out of the house with a lease option agreement signed and authorization to release. That's all you need to worry about. Now, when you get ready to bring your attorney in, which should be very immediately, go to my quick start manual, and there's a list of stuff that you should get while you're in the house. But honestly, it ain't that big a deal whether you get it or not, because the attorney's going to have everything in his file that is necessary anyway. So you always go to the attorney's office and get a copy of anything. And he'll make sure you get a copy of whatever when he's talking to the seller and after all that paperwork is done. I don't know if that answered the question or not. All right.
Our last question for this week is from Brent Dunn in Indiana.
Hey, Brent.
Would you ever do a deal where the buyer wanted a higher price, say 80% ARV, for accepting a longer term, for example, 10 years?
I don't think I got that question right. You mean the seller?
Uh, would you ever do a deal where the buyer wanted a higher price,
Okay.
like 80% ARV, or accepting a longer term?
If the buyer wants 80%, all my buyers are going to want more than 100% because that's all I'm going to sell it to them for. So I don't understand that question. I think you got a little bit backwards. Maybe the seller will take 80% in exchange for something, but I just don't understand that question. Read it to me one more time.
Would you ever do a deal where the buyer wanted a higher price, say 80% ARV?
I've never done a deal in my life where the buyer wanted to pay more. Never, not once. So I don't get that question. 80% of the R can only be granted by the seller. But in your question, I don't see where you're asking me what you want the seller to do except lower the price. And so none of that makes a difference. I mean, it makes sense. And it's a case by case deal anyway. You throw these percentages out of your head. There's what like I got one on my desk right now. I can't think of the numbers, but crap. We got several houses right now that are highly financed with high interest rates, which means high payments. Beautiful houses, 2 to 3 years old, and the sellers are literally begging us to come buy their house and get that payment off their back because there's not enough money there to even pay a realtor. So your market is changing, folks, and you better listen up because you're going to have a ton of those kind of deals out there. And they're so easy to get. So easy to get. They chase you to buy the house. And if you don't come, they call you. When are you coming? Total different type of seller. So your goal is to go in there and either take over that loan or lease purchase the house. Because if you lease purchase it, you don't have any closing costs. If you take over the loan, you could have thousands of dollars worth of closing costs. In fact, I just did one that way. Because I didn't want to pay $6,000 worth of closing costs. I just lease optioned it. Seller didn't get anything. And we're in control of it now. So we're trying to find a buyer who wants to buy it or lease it. And obviously do the normal, get the deposit, get the monthly. It won't be much monthly spread, but we got the deposit. We got the upside. We got the debt pay down. We got everything that goes along with a lease option deal, even though we don't have much equity, if any equity in the deal. So that's, when you get those, that's going to be a case where you're going to have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Because if I'm doing it to make it instant money, you're not going to make much because you're only a little bit under the ARP and there's only so much you can raise that price. I mean, you might be worth $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 per deal to you, but you don't get any monthly cash flow. You just get all those other benefits because, you're getting enough rent to cover the rent. All right, that's enough on that. I'm scared I'm off already.
And that is all the questions we have this week.
That's all we had.
That's all we have.
Golly, next time I want some hard questions. Go out there and get to work. See you next week. Now we got a couple of free events coming up, don't we?
We do. We've got the Fast Track to Wealth coming up. That's happening this Friday. Might be a little bit late.
It's Friday.
Yes, May 2nd.
Okay. Got a dreams training. That's dreams.
Dreams Pro AI.
Okay, that's next Thursday, May 8th at 2 p.m. And I assume they're going to get a letter to give them a link and also. All right. Anything else we should tell them about? Oh, I know. We got a Structuring Your Empire day with 2 days with Bob Bloom and I coming up. What's the date on that? June 4th and 5th. It's a virtual event right here. I'm in Jacksonville. You're wherever you're at. And Bob Bloom is the best asset protection, entity structuring, tax reduction guy I know. He's doing all of those estate plans for our masters and that we're paying for the most part. So be a very valuable 2-day event to you. And it's all about the stuff that everybody wants to hear over and over and over again. And to be fair, it takes you hearing it over and over and over again to actually get it. I was the same way when I was coming up. But difference is I actually attempted to use it. Sometimes I was wrong, but none of it took me out. I'm still alive. So you guys put this stuff on your calendar. Now that entity structure thing is not going to be free. We're going to get you out a letter on it here pretty soon, and you get all the details. All right. See you guys next week.